Hey everyone, Brandon here from TruckSafe. Coming on the heels of a rocky transition to the new fully electronic process for CDL medical certification, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has announced a temporary waiver for CDL drivers and the motor carriers that employ them. What's this mean for the medical qualification process going forward? That's what we're discussing in this video, so stay tuned and be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons below. On July 14th, 2025, the FMCSA issued its regulatory waiver, providing temporary enforcement relief for CDL drivers and the motor carriers that employ them. At its heart, the waiver addresses potential delays in the electronic transmission of DOT medical exam results stemming from medical examiners or state drivers' licensing agencies who weren't prepared for the long-planned transition to the fully electronic process, and thus couldn't process new medical exams for CDL drivers under that new process. The waiver is intended to ensure drivers and carriers aren't penalized during this shift for issues beyond their control. Now, we broke down the new process that medical examiners and state licensing agencies were supposed to begin using effective June 23rd of 2025 in a prior video. Check that one out if you missed it. But in a nutshell, the new process was intended to do away with the issuance of physical medical examiner certificates to CDL drivers and the need for those drivers to take those certificates to their state licensing agencies to get associated with their driving record. Instead, the medical examination data would be electronically transferred from the medical examiners to the National Registry of Medical Examiners and then from the registry directly to the CDL driver's licensing agency. Despite having nearly a decade to prepare for this transition, many state licensing agencies and medical examiners were not, in fact, prepared, which has caused quite a bit of confusion for many drivers and carriers and has led to CDL downgrades. So to temporarily address these issues, FMCSA's waiver essentially allows CDL drivers and their motor carriers to continue following the old medical certification process through October 12th of 2025. What exactly does that mean? Well, it means they can continue relying on physical medical examiner certificates as proof of the CDL driver's physical qualifications for a period of 15 days after the driver receives the certificate. After those 15 days are up, the certificate would need to be associated with the driver's driving record via the driver's state licensing agency, and the motor carrier would need to run a motor vehicle report, or MVR, on the driver showing that the new certification has, in fact, been associated with the driver's record. Come October 12th, this waiver, unless it gets extended, will expire, and CDL drivers and their carriers will no longer be permitted to rely on the physical medical certificate as proof of the driver's physical qualifications. That proof will come only through the CDL driver's motor vehicle record. A couple of closing recommendations here. First, if you're a CDL driver whose med card is expiring in the near future, we strongly suggest that you call ahead to your clinic or doctor you plan to use for your renewal to see what process they are following. Will they be electronically transmitting your results to the National Registry and then on to your state licensing agency, or will they be expecting you to take a physical med card to your state licensing agency to get associated with your driving record? In either case, you'd be well advised to request a physical copy of your medical certificate from the examiner for the foreseeable future. Also, be sure to take a copy of your CDL with you to the exam and double check that your examiner takes down your CDL number correctly so that there aren't any problems in the transmission of your results to the National Registry if they follow that new process. For their part, motor carriers need to exercise some caution here when it comes to CDL drivers who are renewing their medical certifications now. You too need to understand how their clinic or doctor are planning to process the results, and you ultimately need to ensure those results get transmitted to the driver's licensing agency and associated with their record. Under this waiver, you can rely on their physical med card that they present to you as proof of their physical qualifications, but only for 15 days after the date of their exam. At that point, you need to have an MVR for them that shows the new medical certification information on their record. Otherwise, they are no longer qualified to operate commercial vehicles for you at that point. And lastly, for any medical examiners or state licensing agencies watching this, you need to ensure you understand and are prepared to implement the new electronic transmission process for CDL medical exams. To that end, the FMCSA has published educational information for you on its National Registry Learning page. So be sure to check that out. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this video. For even more in-depth information about these types of regulatory topics, be sure to check out our innovative online compliance courses for safety managers and for drivers over at trucksafeacademy.com. Also, be sure to check out eRegs, the first app-based digital version of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, over at eregs.app. Lastly, you can access our detailed compliance articles on our website at trucksafe.com, and be sure to follow us on our various social media pages for the latest highway transportation news and analysis. Thanks for watching.